Okay, I want to ask this question to both of you as we move the conversation forward, and then we'll get into Alex Karp's shareholder letter. Can you both name me one like phenomenal thing you think Palantir did this year, and then one holy crap, I can't believe they did this. This is horrible thing they did this year? Off the top of your head, you can take 30 seconds to think about it. What is one just I'll go first while you guys are thinking. One amazing thing, one bad thing. So we'll start with bad thing first. I think Carp dropping that they won't be profitable till 2025 in Q2 earnings was really shocking to me. Now, it shouldn't have been that shocking since I think we already knew it, but when he said that explicitly, it really told shareholders, look, stock-based compensation is going to be around for a while, even though it's decreasing year over year. Operating margins are not going to get that good enough for them to get profitable. And even though they're at negative 9% gap profitability, it's still going to take some time. It's just not going to happen in 2020, 2023, 2024. So that's like that wasn't the best thing. I didn't enjoy that this year. I would say one of well, I have two best things. I'll give one. The first one was their involvement in Ukraine. Just seeing how that ended up turning, like being a shareholder of a company that is stopping a dictatorship from invading another company. And now we're seeing mainstream media outlets that are more biased to the left, which Palantir doesn't get a good rap with, like the Washington Times and the UK Times, actually covering them and saying that they're really helping. That coverage has been amazing to see what they've been able to do in Ukraine. And then my second thing, it's like 1A, 1B, is how public Karp has been towards the latter half of the year. I really liked how, like, I think 7-8 interviews that he's done, whether it's on CNBC or large keynotes, of him just expressing the overall mission of Palantir and not being super bombastic, but really talking about hardcore things like free cash flow and when they can get to profitability. So those were my good things for Palantir this year and my bad things. Sachin, you can go next.
Hey, thanks, Amit. You already covered the Ukraine part, so I will not cover that one. I mean, I was thinking the same. I think that was the most baddest thing. They have done something different as well, which I would say that I really liked. You saw that they never came before. I mean, on Fox Business. I think they also realized that this war between the woke and everyone else on the Silicon Valley, they really have to, I mean, so until now they were more have been in the pacifying mode. Okay, they were answering questions people were raising them. Okay, in past they had a very aggressive approach which they didn't do this year. So that is something which I felt that I think it was pretty bad. If you have taken a stand and you want to build a company of a different kind and of a different culture, that's your brand. Okay, and either it will hurt you or it will make you, but this year they made it quite diluted. Okay, so from that part, I think, so on one hand, like from the government point of view and the macro point of view, they stay true to their mission, but on the corporate front, I think they have sent all kind of mixed messages. Okay, so they still, I don't know, I mean, how they are in this position that people still don't understand in corporate world what the Palantir is and what they do and how, what is the difference between a Snowflake and Palantir or Palantir and C3. I mean, it's their commercial market. You cannot capture commercial market without making people understand that. So another year, they have left money on table in commercial market, in my opinion. Back to you guys.
So the worst thing you think, so then the go-to-market you would summarize as like been the worst thing this year.
Yeah, I mean, see, they were sitting on cash. It doesn't matter that you lost money in a SPAC. I mean, yeah, it misfired. It's okay. Okay, but you were sitting on money. Okay, your clients are struggling. You use your money to deploy strategically with your client. Okay, I think they should need to focus with their clients to launch new businesses, because that is something they can do better than everything else. And I mean, I know this from my personal experience with them. Okay, that this is something which so there should be more focus, because every, see, you go to client and you say that you will save cost for them. Yeah, it's attractive, but you go and you tell them that we can help you build a $5 billion business in 2 years. That is even better. Very few companies can go and make claims like that. Okay, and that is something they need to have a very focused strategy on that part. Because see, you remember, like, if you go back, what Karp was saying that people are buying this the portion of these products from everyone to make their big data OS, and they're building this Frankenstein monster. You can get all of this stack and it can be deployed on demand, in the shortest time possible. So question is, when you do this, why you are going to do this? To at the end of the day, you're going to make your business efficient. But the digital transformation has nothing to do with the digitalization of process. Digital transformation relies around that you receive the analytics and you reframe your business and identify new opportunities. To at the end of the day, it's about increasing revenues. So when you start making money for your clients, and when you start making now, when your major focus is on incumbents, okay, what is the biggest problem incumbents has, and why do they acquire so many small companies? That they want these new revenues to come in, and internally their machinery is not able to provide that. Okay, so this is where, I mean, I have worked in digital ventures in few projects. Have seen like how incumbents struggle, what is their problems in digital transformation. So this is an area where they can bring a lot of value. Okay, but they haven't. And you know, whenever they have done, like for example, like we talk about Airbus, we talk about Syntropy, but this should be their main focus and main product moving forward with the commercial. Because if you build a $5 billion business with a client, the kind of then the clients, they don't know, they don't care what you do, they only know that you come and you can work and make $1 billion business with them. Then they will be, right now there is no compelling pressure on them to learn about you. And this is why I think that the money is still left on the table, and the GTM is always, I mean, still my concern. Back to you.
You're muted, Amit.
I say, Chris, one good thing. I know I'm forcing you to do a good thing, so good thing, then bad thing.
Ukraine. That's probably the best thing. I mean, the worst thing you can have is a company that's out there selling itself to be this next level operating system for all sorts of things and not be able to live up to it, right? The Ukraine war is like the perfect demonstration of how lethal their technology is in the right hands. I mean, you literally have a superpower in the military sense versus Ukraine with just a pretty much a ragtag bunch of people with, you know, Western weapons. But at the same time, how do you combine all the logistical aspects of everything that needs to happen that goes into war? Like, I've been to war. I can tell you, wars are fought by people, but literally it's a bureaucracy in the background that's maintaining everything, that's letting you pretty much do what you need to do, right? For every one active duty combat soldier, there's about 4 people behind that person serving in non like direct combat roles that make that make military operations possible. The thing is, though, if you don't coordinate all those things right, it could turn into a boondoggle very quickly, right? Where you have this bureaucratic nightmare of trying to attack an enemy and then getting approval from this thing, and then making sure that the supply guys from this unit are supplying you guys with everything you need. And then you got guys in another service that are supposed to provide you air cover. Dude, it's war is not an easy thing to do and coordinate in the modern world. If Palantir can kind of work on that and make it an easier process where literally you can move people, materials around like you would on a chessboard, that's huge. It's a huge improvement. So from a technology standpoint, I think that was perfect for me, where I think it's pretty much proven now that Palantir has effective technology, especially in the military context. Now, how that translates into the business aspect of companies, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of aspects that, you know, challenges that you face in the military that you also face at the company level. So if you adopt the same kind of practices at that level, and if you have the same level of effectiveness, then that could be really big. The only question is, how do you get to a point where you're adopting for the business segment? Because the business segment, like the commercial segment and the military segment, are 2 different beasts in how they operate. So that's something that they're going to have to figure out, in which case, and I think they're doing it, you know, just not at the pace that they should be in order to beat out other incumbents trying to land contracts in the same space. The bad thing, I would
comment here, real quick. Chris Patel's veteran. Yes, he is. Thank you for your service, Chris. He is a veteran.
Yep. And the bad thing I would say is, and this is the thing that I hate to say, but it's the SPACs.
Yeah.
Like, you have literally like some of the best capital allocators in the world in Peter Thiel, who's on your board, and yet who did the goddamn due diligence to get in bed with some of these SPAC names like Faraday Futures? Like, seriously, they were losing money hand over fist. The other company, Energy Vault, the one that was literally moving concrete blocks to store energy. Like, I just, the fact that they didn't do their due diligence enough to the point where they lost so much money on it leads me to believe it's like, hey, management is not all right up there. You know, like, be smart about what you're investing in, because that's a reflection of your ability to allocate capital. Right.
I think two things on the SPACs. Number one, they DPO'd in 2020. A lot of SPACs went public in 2020, and I think everyone was caught up in SPAC mania. And I don't know if that's necessarily Palantir's fault, because the entire market was being ridiculous, and them putting the money into those companies was bad. But at the valuations they did, I don't know how bad that was, given they weren't going to get cheaper valuations where the market was. But number two on the SPACs is Karpa said these are case studies to prove Palantir's software could work. Do you think they were desperate when they went public that they needed some companies using their product to at least prove it makes sense?
I hate to say this, but the critics said it the best. They said Palantir's buying revenue. And that might have been the case. Like, literally the minute that they started to slowing down, they started to going into the SPAC stuff just to keep their revenues to a point where it seemed like they were growing at a decent clip. I don't think without those SPAC chargeback revenues, because it was weird. Like, you pay them so that they pay you, you know, and at some level I was okay with it. But when I looked at the SPACs themselves, I was like, these are money pits. Like, why would you give them money? Like, it didn't make sense. Like, the scooter company, like Bird Global, they invested into them. I was like, wait, what is Palantir trying to do here? Like, these, so it's a lot of, even though these are case studies where there's definitely like areas where Palantir may have learned, but at the same time, dude, it's wasted capital that you could have used on a venture capital fund. That it's so weird. That was the other thing too that I didn't understand, why Palantir, being literally founder led by guys who've been in the VC market for like so many years, didn't actually just run a VC firm on the side and do small investments in companies that are adjacent to their business that are able to grow exponentially. So, and this is where, like, you look at something like Snowflake, right? Snowflake did that. Snowflake ended up getting into Data Robot, DBT Labs. Like, there's so many companies right now that are monster growers, or at least can be monster growers. And the part that probably shocked me the most is there were employees of Palantir that went out on their own, and Palantir didn't invest in them. Why? I don't know. That's weird. Like, the one company that I would say is Hex, right? Hex was actually invested in by Snowflake through Snowflake Ventures and some of the other companies, but Palantir didn't. Palantir has no stake in Anduril, even though Anduril CEO is former Palantir. You know, I mean, sure, they partner here and there, but guys, come on. You got all this money in your bank. Deploy some of that into exponential growers like Anduril, who will end up, you know, being in your ecosystem. So in the future, your partnerships will just become way more valuable. You know, so that's what I would say. And especially, it's just, the other thing was also the nonstop dilution too. Like, come on, guys. Like, y'all need to you guys need to compensate your employees a little bit more with cash and less with stock.
Yeah, and now, to be fair, SBC is coming down, but I agree. Eventually, we got to see that turn to GAAP profitability sooner. Okay, yeah, those are some good and bad things that Amit, let Sachin talk so I can get my conviction back. So Sachin, let's hear. I mean, Chris said a lot of good points. Your position in Palantir is 3x'd. What is the response? You don't have to go line by line, but what is the top level response to why everything Chris said has no impact on your conviction?
See, what Chris said, everything is true. Okay, there is no, I mean, it's right. I mean, when there is a valuation in a market, you cannot buy at a cheaper value. You can only decide whether buy at value or buy not. That's the decision you had. And it is fair that some of the investments they have made, I mean, even from a prima facie, they didn't look that attractive. Okay, so that money could not have gone there somewhere else. So Chris' criticism is absolutely true. Question is, So when I see Palantir in general, I mean, like I said, I mean, I see there are issues in terms of their go-to-market strategy. The reason I'm so bullish about it in terms of in long term, because the company has zero debt. That means it's not going to go bankrupt. Company's revenue is still increasing even with after all these mess ups. Their product is top class. Okay, their niche in certain areas, especially in government, is still pretty strong. Okay, so they are not going to go away. The macro we are talking about in terms of big data, I mean, so when I was doing last year my data strategy product, I looked all trends in terms like what is happening in IoT, what is happening in AI, how much these companies, each of these things is actually going to increase in double digit CAGR. So when a sector is this hot, okay, I mean, it's going to make every company look good at some point of time. And at some point of time, if companies manage to get their misfired GTM together, their valuation also get in some sort of coordination with each other. This company has far lower multiples than anyone else. Okay, for example, like if you're looking for Snow, you're already talking a multiple of 20. They're already expecting Snow to have a revenue of $10 billion to justify what is the cost today. Okay, now Snow is going to get a $10 billion or $20 billion revenue in 2030. Palantir will also have something similar to that. Because
That's
at
true.
the end of the day, the TAM for Snowflake is far lower than the TAM for Palantir at this point. So how Snowflake is trying to cover that? Snowflake is acquiring companies now. They're changing their own definition that, okay, what they are trying to sell. They're trying to say we are now selling data solutions. They're not saying we are selling data warehouses. Okay, so Snowflake has taken a strategy which is driven by inorganic expansion now. It may not have looked very clear, but you see that they have acquired few small companies. Okay, now they are going more on an inorganic expansion. Now, inorganic expansion is not a proven strategy in big data because nobody has done it so far. Okay, it's something new they are going to do. Okay, can they pull it off? Only time will tell. Okay, it's not easy. Inorganic expansion is a good strategy if you are already a very large company. Okay, if you're looking at inorganic expansion to reach new client, yeah, it's not. It has its own issues to come. So when I see moving forward, I see more headwinds in front of Snowflake than in front of Palantir. Okay, and my understanding is that at some point of time these multiples will be almost same, and when the time comes, okay, I mean euphoria will come in market. Today it looks very difficult because everybody is in the trenches, but guys, that's the thing, market will come back. And when market will come back, all these companies and their multiples, okay, they will be similar to each other for a long period of time. This is how it works. Okay, during so when I see in
So
terms of return,
go ahead, finish your
so
thought,
when I
and then I'll ask one question.
so when I see in terms of returns, okay, and as you know that the proportion of my strategy involves buying and selling options as well. Okay, at this point, controlling how much stocks I can control using a stock, I mean with options at times, with the volatility, I mean the premium is pretty nice relative to other stocks. So, and like I said, I mean I'm pretty comfortable, and I don't want to hold too many stocks. I mean, I'm not someone who likes to diversify. If you want to diversify, yeah, you can look for other things. I don't want to diversify. I wanted to pick one stock in this sector. I wanted to pick one stock that can go and capture a very large market, and that is extremely cheap. And to me, Palantir is that stock. Okay, I
I
don't
was
know
gonna
that many
say,
people in. I also don't know that many people in Snowflake. Okay, I mean, I have talked to several people in Palantir. I mean, so it gives you the idea of culture. So yeah, I mean, I'm more comfortable with Palantir than any other stock. One stock which I'm not definitely not comfortable is C3AI. Okay, I
right.
mean, that is something. I mean, like, but the macro is so strong, they still survive it. But their destiny to me is to be acquired by someone. That's pretty much it. They are not. They will not be around. Their product may be around as an acquisition in some other company, but this company will not be around in 10-15 years. Back to you guys.